Hey everybody, welcome back to the Kingdom Creatives podcast. I'm your host Flavia and I do hope you've been enjoying it so far. I hope you've been blessed. I hope you've been enlightened, all those good things. Now, the past week, my sinus has been doing its own thing. Every time I wake up sneezing, and for most of the day, it's been really annoying. For those of you who have sinus issues or sinusitis, allergies, you can relate. But God would have it that it stopped irritating me in time for me to record this podcast. And so here we are. Let's get right into it.
You make a way. That have the final say.
Growth at any pace is still growth. Let me repeat that. Growth at any pace is still growth. So recently I took some seeds from some sweet peppers that I would have used in the kitchen and I wrapped them up in some damp paper towel, placed them inside a cover of the, laundry detergent cap. Yeah, anytime my laundry detergent is finished, I keep the cap. So I placed them in a laundry detergent cap and allowed them to just stay there for a bit and germinate. So after a few weeks, when I thought that they were mature enough, I have taken them out and placed them in individual containers. This was still laundry detergent caps, but each one had a separate container. So let me start there. On this journey that we have to go through, each of us have our unique path, right? And sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like we are doing it all by ourselves because of that, because it is unique to us. But that's okay. And always be reminded, I know it kind of sounds cliche, but God is always with you. If you are set on that particular journey, it's for a reason. And so my suggestion would be to just go through that period with grace, continue doing what God is asking you to do. And even if it doesn't feel comfortable at the moment, I promise it's for your good. Now, after I would have separated them into different containers, a few weeks after that, I'd have noticed that, well, not me, my husband actually, because I do not have a green thumb. But he would have noticed that the plants need a bigger container, right? The container that they were initially placed in was getting too small for them, and so they weren't able to grow to their maximum potential. So what do? You have to take them out, transplant them into something that's bigger. God will move you when He thinks that you're ready, right? So I wouldn't have placed them in a bigger container if they were still seedlings. I don't know if I'm using the right terms, but I wouldn't have placed them in those bigger containers if they were still really tiny, because I wouldn't have seen the need. But when they got bigger and they were outgrowing their environment, my husband would have said, you need to put them in something bigger. And so that's what we did, and that's how it works with God as well. When He feels like you're ready for the next part of your journey, He'll let you know. He'll allow that shift to happen. But you also have to be willing to move. Oftentimes we allow fear to stop us from doing what God has called us to do. But we have to be willing to move in those moments. Otherwise, what's going to happen? It's going to stop us from growing to the place that we need to be for the next shift, right? It's going to stop us from flourishing the way that God wants us to. So we have to be obedient in those seasons when He's like, all right, you're ready for the next step. Let's go. Now, after that, I would have watched them, spring up and, they started looking nice, except for one of them. One of them kind of looked a little droopy. The leaves weren't really spreading the way that the others were spreading. It was shorter, much smaller than the others, and it just wasn't at the same stage as the other two plants. And that brings me to the next point, which is slow growth is still growth. I started to get concerned because, hey, it's supposed to be growing. All of them are in the same environment, all of them are getting the same treatment. Why is it not growing? But when I went on Google, yes, as we always do when we have a problem, when I went on Google, it said that sometimes plants, they go through shock, and sometimes we experience that as well. But the plants go through shock when they go into a new environment, and it takes a bit of adjusting. And for us, sometimes it's life experiences, sometimes it's the people that are around us. There are many factors that can contribute to why we aren't growing the way that we should be, or why our process is the way it is. And so for me, as an outsider looking at the plant, I'm like, why is this happening? And it's easy for us to condemn it and say, this plant isn't growing, so let's just leave it alone. But that's not how we should treat our purpose. The fact is, when I continued reading on Google, it said that it's still growing and it's normal. I should just ensure that I keep doing what I was doing before, so that eventually it will get to the place that I want it to. And so I've continued doing that. And you also have to do that with your purpose, Keep doing what God has called you to do. Keep being a faithful steward. It might not feel like you're progressing. It might not feel like you're getting anywhere, but you're moving. It's just that you're moving slowly, and that's fine. Slow and steady is fine. Take your time. Any growth at any pace is still growth. After that, after separating them and after realizing that one of them wasn't growing, I would have moved that small one and placed it in the middle of the two plants that were flourishing. Why did I do this? Well, I did it in an effort to motivate the little plant, so to speak, because I've always been told when plants are around taller plants, they compete to some extent. And so for us, we have to make sure that we are around people that not necessarily compete with us, but persons who challenge us, in a good way. But it doesn't just come like that, because it's easy for us to mistake the right people just because we feel like these people are nice, or we feel like a lot of times we do things based on our emotions and we don't ask God for his input. So I would suggest that you talk to God about the persons that you want in your circle, because in addition to that shift that I did with the plant, there were also ants. There were a whole lot of ants around the plant, and I'm like, how is this plant going to grow if the ants keep getting into the pot and disturbing it? So again, I went to Google, and Google told me that I should use cayenne pepper or cinnamon powder. I don't have cayenne pepper, which I recently realized when I wanted to do something and I looked in the cupboard. I'm like, why don't I have cayenne pepper? I need to fix that. But I had cinnamon powder, so I went and sprinkled the cinnamon powder around the plant with hopes that the ants would start, finding somewhere else to go. We don't want any undesirable visitors, right? Sometimes things around us, and that includes people, are undesirables, and we don't always know, because sometimes it feels good, sometimes we genuinely like a particular person or a particular group of people around us. But if you were to sit down and think about how they benefit your life, both your purpose and just you as an individual, you'd realize that they really don't mean you well. They don't challenge you. They don't encourage you to do better. Anything that you want to do, even if it's bad, they're like, yeah, man, do whatever. YOLO, you only live once. You know that phrase. So it is very important that we include God in even the persons that we have in our circle. Allow Him to choose those people so that it won't bite you in the long run. I don't know. I indirectly made an answer, friends. I did not mean to, but it works. You know, you don't want that to bite you in the long run. So include God. To just wrap that up, the process that we have to go through because of the uniqueness of it won't always feel good. And when we see other people thriving around us, it can even get discouraging. But don't look to your left, don't look to your right. Keep your eyes straight ahead, stay on that straight and narrow. Keep doing what God has called you to do. Keep being obedient. Just keep moving. I think that's what it boils down to, keep moving. Because as I said before, growth at any pace is still growth. So you may not be going as fast as other people. You don't know what their journey is. Everybody's journey is different. But at the end of the day, when you reach where God wants you to reach, only He will be able to get the glory. Right? So just hone your journey. Any growth at any pace is still growth. That was the Kingdom Creatives podcast. I hope that encouraged you. I hope that motivated you. And I hope it gives you an extra push for the upcoming week. Have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon. God bless you all. Stay safe. Take care.
You make a way. That after final say.